Imagine how it would feel if someone had sharp needles piercing their skin. How would he feel? Today's movie is about this. The story begins with Laris calling her sister Ayu to apologize for her work, which Ayu didn't approve of. Actually, Laris used to do wrong things. She had a relationship with many boys and she wants to quit this job. Ayu was angry with Laris, so she doesn't answer her call. Ayu is a makeup artist. Now Laris went to meet her client. Laris is left by her friend who is a taxi driver and also likes Laris. That client has a wife and daughter, but he still wants to keep a relationship with Laris. Laris tells him that she will never meet him again. Saying this, she leaves. Then that man attacks Laris and tries to force her. Laris runs to save her life, calls Ayu. But Ayu doesn't answer the call because of anger. The man starts beating Laris violently, drags her to the balcony and threatens, "If you don't come to me, you won't be with anyone." After saying this, he pushes Laris off the balcony, causing her to suffer 24 fractures throughout her body. Laris was in the hospital, and doctors tell Ayu that a part of Laris's brain is dead, and only a miracle can save her. The doctors show Ayu an X-ray in which they see many needles in Laris's brain. Everyone was surprised to see that this case was out of the doctor's control. Laris's news had spread, and now Laris's friend tells Ayu that Laris should go to the village and show it to shaman. That means witch doctor who works to drive away ghosts. Ayu refused, because she was sure that she would be fine in a few days. However, Laris dies, but suddenly her body starts to tremble, and she gets up, meaning she's come back to life. On the way, the patient with Laris sees someone standing, but Ayu can't see anything. Laris wakes up, whom Ayu takes care of. Seeing this, Ayu quickly decides to take Laris to a shaman, and they head to Laris's childhood home. Now Ayu meets the police officer there and asks about a shaman who could cure Laris. Then he tells her about a shaman. Now Ayu meets shaman and tells him about Laris's accident. The village goons group also sees Laris because Laris's news had spread everywhere. Seeing an old video, Ayu remembers Laris where Laris said surgery is expensive. We get Susuk and both joke. Susuk is actually needles made of black magic, which is applied to the body to increase beauty, so that a person remains young and beautiful for a long time. The needles are made of gold and precious metals, and this is done like a ritual, in which the needles protect demons and ghosts, so the human body is in danger of ghosts and spirits. Now Susuk is used to cure people, but if it is used more or ignored, it becomes a curse, and those ghosts enter the human body. Those who wear Susuk, if they fall ill or become a victim of an accident, they have to suffer for a long time because their body is bound by magic. Then Ayu gets a bad smell from a dummy whose face was broken. When Ayu removes his broken face, he sees a rotten face in it. There were insects in it, and she sees Laris's face in a dummy's face. But when Laris's friend came and saw, everything was normal. The next day, a shaman comes and takes out Susuk, means needles, from Laris's face, which hurts Laris, and she tries to stop shaman as if there is someone in her. Laris scratches shaman's face, but shaman calms her down and about to leave from there. On the way, he tells that the Susuk in Laris's body is not normal, and they should leave Laris thinking she is dead. Ayu does not agree, and the shaman leaves from there. Ayu searches for a Susuk expert on the net, and she also found one. Suddenly, Laris wakes up, and Ayu sees Laris on the mobile screen. But when she turns around, Laris was lying on the bed. Looking at this, Ayu's mobile phone falls. Now when Ayu picks it up, she sees a ghost standing there, but the next moment there was no one. Laris points to one side, and that ghost starts scaring Ayu again. The next day, we found out that the shaman had died, whose face had a scar. A goon informs the villagers that everything happened because of Susuk, a mystical practice. He claims that Laris had undergone Susuk, and her current condition is a result of it. Ayu tells Laris's friend to go to the expert and ask for help. They also found out that Shaman had died because of the announcement in the village. Laris's friend tells the expert that Laris recovered only when Shaman prayed for her. And when he heard about Laris's condition, he was ready to help. Ayu apologizes to Laris for not picking up the call that day and wants Laris back. Then she sees that Laris's body is in pain. Ayu cleanses the wound on her stomach, in which she sees an eye. Seeing this, her mind gets dizzy. Then someone came out of the closet and scares Ayu, whom Laris was able to see. Meanwhile, Laris's friend comes and everything seems normal. They brought Laris to the expert. He tells them to stay out of it, because Laris's body has a lot of Susuk, and her body is colliding with them. Now the expert starts taking out Laris's Susuk. Then a lot of bats come out of Laris's mouth. The ghost inside Laris says he will not leave the body. The expert takes out the Susuk one by one, and he got to see a lot of ghosts inside Laris. But he took out the Susuk, after which Laris calmed down. And here the expert was very surprised to know that one Susuk has not come out yet, which Laris had worn before, and that Susuk is very powerful. So if the expert takes it out, Laris will not be able to tolerate it and her life can be lost. He was telling all this to Laris's friend. It is known that Laris's friend loves Laris, but he could never tell her because according to him she is not worthy of Laris. Laris told her sister Ayu that I think my friend will never accept me. Means both liked each other but never told each other. Laris was getting better now. But the villagers say bad things about Laris to Ayu, that her sister is a prostitute, and she should die. Hearing this, Ayu started crying and leaves from there. The goon then begins telling Ayu awful things about their mother, which was the fact. He says, "Your mother had friendships with many boys, just like Laris. Go and ask the police officer, because he and your mother had a relationship too. And you and Laris have different fathers." Hearing this, Ayu completely breaks. Now Ayu learns everything from the police officer that her mother was the most beautiful in the village. And a lot of people started loving her and started making a relationship with her. When she married a man, Laris was born. But her mother also had a relationship with another man, with whom Ayu was born. When your mother's husband found out about this, he tried to kill your mother. Because of this, the villagers came in anger and killed that man. Your mother was saved, but she was like a living corpse. Her body was rotten, like Laris's. Her mother also had Susuk. The shaman was hired to remove her Susuk. She couldn't take out all the Susk, so they ritualized and buried her mother, so that the ghost of her mother's Susuk can remain calm in the grave. Laris's body started rotting again, so her friend says we should let Laris go, because we did everything. And in this way, Laris is also suffering. The police officer reveals to Ayu, "I am the man who fathered you. You are my daughter. I am your father." Hearing this, Ayu leaves from there in grief. There, we see the ghost inside Laris, where Laris was getting better, and she tries to get close to her friend. Then Ayu comes and sees it, but Laris was lying on the bed in the same condition. Ayu believes that Laris's friend is taking advantage of her, so she tells him to leave. When he was going at night, he sees the group of goons going to Laris's house. He stops them, which causes a fight between them. Ayu sees a small Laris inside the house who takes her to her mother. She was looking scary. Then the same ghost attacks Ayu from behind. The police officer and the expert come and save her. The expert tells Ayu that Laris is dead, and the ghost of the Susuk has taken over Laris's body. He takes Ayu and the officer out and starts the ritual. There was one thing between Laris and her mother. Like Laris, that lady shaman could not take out all the Susuk from her mother's body. That's why the lady shaman buried her in her mother's grave. So now Laris would have to be buried in the same grave if she is not cured. The goon instigates the villagers to take Laris and Ayu out of the village. The villagers get angry and go to Laris's house. Here the expert was performing the ritual to take out the last Susuk, but the ghost throws the expert away. Then someone gets inside the expert too, and Laris and the expert both start fighting, who were making sounds like animals. Meanwhile, the expert sees that Laris is fine and the expert was about to take out the last Susuk. Then Laris eats the flesh of the expert's throat as if she is thirsty for blood. She kills the expert. Seeing this, Ayu and the officer become astonished. The police officer ties Laris in a cloth and says she will have to be buried in her mother's grave. Meanwhile, the villagers come here and they kill the police officer. On the way back, Ayu and Laris's friend take her to the grave. The goon follows them, but Laris's friend hits him with a car. Now they reach the graveyard. Ayu sees a cloth tied to a stone, and Ayu realizes that maybe this is the thing that has stopped the ghost inside her mother in that grave. They dig her mother's grave, in which her corpse was not at all rotten. It was just fresh like before, and the ghost stands up again and attacks Ayu. Then Laris's friend saves her, but Laris kills him. Now Laris becomes normal and hugs Ayu. Ayu apologizes to her. She knew that it is the ghost's trick, so she pushes Laris in the grave. And the ghost leaves. That means he had calmed down. Now Ayu closes the grave. She gets into Laris's friend's taxi and returns, acting as if nothing has happened. She feels sad because she has lost everyone she loved in her life. In fact, a person who has Susuk cannot die peacefully until all the Susuk have left their body. Only the individual who placed the Susuk in that person's body can remove them. This movie clearly illustrates how far people are willing to go to attain beauty. We should avoid Susuk or anything similar, as things like these may provide temporary happiness. However, they can ultimately ruin our lives, so a person should not be overly concerned about their appearance. This story concludes with the following message.